What's up, wrestling card collectors? Welcome to yet another edition of WTC TV. Look who's sitting next to me.
What the hell am I doing here? How come I can do this? How come we can do this?
Yeah, like there's like I don't see a little square of Paul down there. It's like that. He's actually visiting here all the way from Toronto.
2,000 plus miles to come to the world famous Wrestling Guy Store in Phoenix. Now, where are the presses? I can't find the Impel presses anywhere. I've been looking. I
keep those hidden someplace else.
I see evidence of stomp binders. I see WCW cards everywhere. I can't find the presses. They're hidden somewhere here.
I hear that rumbling. What's that rumbling going on?
What's that?
The system's like just going crazy over here today. So apologize for that, guys. It's just the system is a little crazy. We're trying to do something new, and
yeah.
But yeah, the printing presses are next door in the empty place next door. But that's why those windows are tinted so you can't see in.
So, guys, historic first episode together in the flesh, side by side, each by each, during a monthly recap, talking about January 2023. How are you, man?
Good. I'm doing good, man.
Well, I'm just so used to saying, "Hey, Tony, nice to see you this month. How are you?"
How you doing?
Never mind that we've been hanging out for the last 2 days, going to restaurants and shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a nice dinner tonight. That's for sure.
Guys, this store of Tony's is something else. Like, I didn't know what to expect, and I'm just blown away, not only by the front, but the amount of cards this dude has in the back. It's like, shit, you got indie, you've got old, you got vintage, you got new, you've got everything. And I don't have that. Can I have it? No. That's one of those. No.
We're making deals already like that.
I'm like, I didn't know this existed. Topps promo cards for the 2016. They're promo cards. I didn't know about that. They're here. Stone Cold Steve Austin dollars.
Yeah.
You name it.
We got there's some oddball things. I've talked about it for years, man. There's just so much stuff that's sitting inside the boxes around here that you just don't even.
And if you guys haven't seen these babies yet, from
Oh,
the
yeah.
very first grand opening here a couple weeks ago, or was last weekend?
The 14th, yeah, a couple weeks ago.
14th, the Honky Tonk Man himself.
Yeah, it's got the back cards like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's first card in the series, and people are excited about it. Sending some out tomorrow. Can't do it today because I'm recording today. It's Sunday.
Right.
But yeah, excited about the next one. We'll see how far this goes. I think it's going to be a cool thing. Collectors seem to be pretty buzzed about it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting series.
I had that notion in the beginning, like, do something special for like the Wrestling Guy Store in Los Angeles does, the Ceiling of Fame, which is such a cool thing with an artist over there. We do something similar here too. We're doing it with Ceiling of Fame, where it's just old school handprints and then signed, which is kind of cool. So Honky Tonk was the first one. I thought, look, those who come to the store should take something with them when they come for the experience. So I thought, well, shit, we do trading cards, for crying out loud. That's our specialty,
Yeah, a thing too about
Yeah, so we said let's make some trading cards, and there's a typo on it. I'm sorry about that. We'll get better at it. Yeah, it's supposed to be into. It's just not.
He was inducted in the Hall of Fame. Good thing when you sent it to me and said, "Here, have a look at it."
Yeah,
I said,
that looks great, but
maybe next time I'll.
But it was quick. I mean, I whipped it together in the morning in a span of an hour, designed it, edited it real quick like that, and submitted it for print, and had it ready for printing the next morning. And so it was real quick. I had to have it done, and I'm a procrastinator, and I waited to the last minute, and that's what you get. You get an out of that. But I wanted to get something for people to go and collect and have a good time when they're here. And I knew that collectors would probably, be jonesing like if I had any extras, and I do have some extras. It'll be on the WTC site. You'll have it on your site as well.
Nice card.
It'll be it's real thin quality. It's like a gaming card type stuff, but it'll be an ongoing series, and let's see how it goes, man. It should be fun. We've already planning on.
Honky Tonk in the ceiling is great. It's like the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but above you.
Yeah, it's above you. That's right. And so you just got the handprints, and I learned my lesson. No blue Sharpie on that one. I didn't give that to him. He just grabbed it and signed it just like that. But now I'm gonna get the big old fat black Sharpies like that. Yeah. So it stands out more. So he'll be the only one that stands out because it'll be blue.
So guys,
it's fitting because it's
we're gonna do what we normally do every month. We're gonna talk about our top sales. We're gonna talk about our index. We're gonna chat about a few things that came out. And I've got a very special guest that we might have come and.
There could be a run-in.
There could be a run-in. It all depends if we can find him. But shall we? Not yet. You ready to go? Good background.
Jesus, he's excited, man. This guy.
So should we
rookie
get into the new releases of the month for January?
Yeah, let's get some new releases.
So obviously Chronicles is a big thing. It actually came out in December, but of course most of it hit in January. People really started getting a sense of what was what and how much the gallows were going to be worth. And there's a lot of that product on the market, but again, Panini out of the park. Great set, lots of stuff. And the thing I think most collectors like about this is just the variety of all the different kinds of national treasures and the one-of-ones and all of this stuff. So if you've never seen, if you're not a sort of Panini guy outside of wrestling, you're going to have a taste of everything. Obviously, Gelman and Ryan have dissected every which way. So go back and watch their videos, and they'll set you straight. There's one good one that they did where they went through every sort of the 500 cards, all the subsets,
because they're broken down and like you know, the first 100 of this and that kind of thing. And so it's a little bit of it's a little bit something for everybody. Like I know it's a big set, and guys like you and Chuckster like really like to collect, you know, your master set collectors.
And this isn't happening.
This is not happening for this one. This is sort of like a you know, a buffet of all different types of wrestling cards you can go out and get to based on what you like design wise. What maybe you're a fan of Donruss, maybe you are a fan of National Treasure. It's got it's a little bit for everything. It's sort of like just
it's going to be possible to get the first 100 Chronicles.
Oh, no problem.
There's going to be sections within that if you know you just want this little section of it, you're going to be able to get. But yeah, Panini again, you know. So Chronicles, obviously, I've got my notes here. Now, what else?
We got 2 GCW sets that came out.
Yeah, these ones are interesting. We had 2 GCWs, and they were both very short printed. A bunch of the guys sort of on the forefront of the indie world were able to snag them. But the first one was a UK release, which was GCW versus TNT. And as far as we know, there was only about a dozen of these sets made. It was just made for the event. And one set actually did find its way onto the secondary market, and it went for over $300. Now, as far as we know, that set is not going to be reprinted again, but God knows. The other ones, which is the knockoff of the Raxville Speed, you know, which are gorgeous, you know. So like shit. Now there's 2 Raxville Speeds,
and they're both going to be rare.
I know. I'm like, yeah, great. That's all I need is another Raxville Speed that I'm not going to have. But apparently, and again, none of this is verified, guys, is that that is going to be made into a regular GCW release. Again, we're just guessing and speculating. We don't know for a fact, but you know, I've reached out to Brett Lauderdale and haven't heard back. I'm hoping he might sort of give me some sort of sense as to what we can expect on those. But that was exciting. Like 2 GCW sets that came out quick, and one of them that you might not ever see again.
Yeah, both short. I mean, they're going to be tough.
Correct. We had the MAW release, the Midwest All Stars. They had another set. We had the ICW set that came out. I should also mention Kevin Gust's playing cards. I'm a big mark for Kevin.
I love his stuff so much. I just got my Kurt Angle ones he sent me, which were really nice, and they're just beautiful.
Well, these are playing cards, and they're shaped a little thinner, a little taller. Although there are some acetates that are sort of regular playing card size. But just the artwork on these is fantastic. And one of my favorite things was when I was putting together the list for price guide to get to you, I had to figure out who everyone was, and you would think, oh, guys like us will know right away. But I'm like, what is this with that? You know?
Well, it's on the checklist, didn't it? It came with a checklist in the actual set.
Did it?
It comes with a checklist card inside of it.
Really?
Yeah, it does.
Did I not get the checklist card? Anyways, I figured it out by looking at him. What was the one? I think it was Dory Funk. And I had to, I said to I said, Kevin, no, is this the right one? Yeah. So I ended up getting like I was right on every one of them. But yes, guys, if you haven't seen any of Kevin's work, this playing card set is absolutely beautiful. And what else we got? We got the Leaf Continuum. We were talking about this last night. How many Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, John Cena stickers are kicking around the Leaf back rooms? Because it seems like they're
milking that out. They're milking it.
And they're doing on-demand stuff now. So, you know, print on order. And, you know, this Leaf Continuum one is an actual set that came out. It's part of the multi-sports.
Yeah, you know, which is it's a typical Leaf product when it includes wrestling. I know that I've been talking to Brian Gray for months before the National last year about getting him on, and that still might happen. And then I approached him at the National and talked to him, and he had told me then that there were supposed to be 2 wrestling sets that were going to come out by the end of the year. Of course, those didn't come out. Yes, dedicated wrestling sets. So kind of hoping that is true for 2023, and really interested in seeing what he comes out with for 2023. I'm sure he's got a lot of stuff in the archives.
There was also that made to order stuff where he had the one Hulk Hogan sort of as the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
There's also a card of him. And I figured to myself, you know what? That's a wrestling card. Because
it is.
The man owns a company that's made a lot of wrestling product. And there's one, it's CEO, super CEO, and it's Brian Gray. And I said, you know what? He gets on the list. He's like, you make the list.
I think I'm going to draw a line there for me.
No.
It's not a wrestler.
You're not a wrestler.
Not a wrestler. It's just a superhero. It's a knockoff of a superhero. But
yeah, but you know, we include people that are sort of in the industry, you know.
I guess.
You know,
speaking of people in the industry.
I guess. Yeah. What else we got? So coming soon, Immaculate. Do we have a date on it?
We don't. that I'm aware of. I think
Mid-February?
that's a great Adam question or Ryan question. I think that they probably, I don't know if it's been bumped or not. I don't think it's been bumped. I'm pretty sure I heard metal at least got
That's
bumped.
coming. Yeah, that's coming soon as well.
That's the end of the February thing, maybe end of
Right.
February.
Right.
I'm not quite sure. What else we got?
We got what we always got. We got our top sales of the month. We got, why don't we do those?
You want to do those? Want to go? Let's go
and then
to
we'll
top
get
sales
into
a month.
some of our topics, and then we'll bring Steve in here to say hello.
Who, Steve?
Steve.
Boy, you don't know how to keep any surprises of any kind. Sorry to God.
It's not our month.
It's not our month.
Well,
We could have done that. We could have done that.
Yeah,
It could be.
yes.
You'll never know.
So January top sales of the month, we had a big one, and
Which is different from the month before. The month before, we had nothing in the 5-digit, realm, which was, I guess that's typical for December anyways. It's holiday time. You really don't think, I don't think you're gonna see the high sales. Now here we are kicking off January
with a
with
big one.
a big one.
And the first one is something we haven't talked about much, and the Rock Panini Gold.
Never heard of it.
No, it's never really come up in discussion
No.
amongst us, but a PSA 8 of the Rock came in at 11,400.
Which in itself, it's a PSA 8,
It's an 8.
not a 9 or a 10.
It's an
You know,
8.
even a 10, and it still generated over 10K.
Yes. And I don't want to talk too much about that card because I think down the way we're going to get into it a little more,
Probably.
with people that are a little more bullish on Prism than I might be, particularly on this Rock Gold. And we're going to dissect it and try and in a very friendly, non-combative way.
Yeah.
To try
And I think
it's
important we talk about it. It does
because
with people who are actually based on the front, front lines of this type of products like that.
Right. And some of these things are not solvable. Like it's just an objective discussion on what I might think a Rock Prism is worth, or any gold prism for that matter.
Again,
blacks and,
I don't want to get into that, but
Yeah,
I really
but-
think that it is your opinion.
Yeah.
It's what you think a card might be worth, but the market's always going to dictate what it's
yes,
worth,
and we have
whether it be
hard facts.
fabricated or not.
No, we have- and that's the thing that I'm on, all the time is that, okay, we know that someone spent this much for this, so that's what we got.
Yeah.
And that's the case with these gold rocks is that, I'll come right out and say it. Drake Magruder paid 30 grand for his, and we recognize that as 33.5. We recognize that as the top value in Prism. Now, there's been, of course, other ones higher,
Sure.
but they're not substantiated.
Yeah.
I don't have the opportunity like a Drake, and Drake has been fantastic, not only of sharing what he's bought and how much he's paid, but also sharing his motivation for some of this stuff as well. And he's the de facto sort of market setter for some of these modern cards.
Yeah.
So I think that we're heading in the direction of me, you, Gelman, maybe Drake, figuring out,
Nice to have a conversation about it,
a conversation where
it was, where it's at, where it may be going.
Where it may be going.
Yeah.
But interesting, because if you recall, and again, I don't want to keep going on this thing, the very first gold rock came in at 9,000, and it was determined that that was way too little, but we have a PSA 8 at 11.4. Anyways, it's a subjective discussion, but it's an interesting one.
It is.
And we all know that the Rock Gold Prism is sort of that fulcrum, that turning point of a lot of people sort of being on one side of the wrestling debate versus the other.
Yeah.
It's a pivotal card for sure. So it was nice to actually have a hard sale that we could say, okay, here it is. Here's an 8 at 11.4.
It's an impressive number, though.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Anything over these $1,000 like that. I mean,
$10,000.
anything that's over $2,000 in wrestling cards is just, to me, it's impressive compared to what it was 10 years ago.
Right. And we like looking at the upper end stuff. I mean, there's tons of stuff that sells regularly in between like $1,000 and $2,000.
Yeah.
Tons of it. But we like these 11,400s. And the next one, a 1981 Hulk Hogan Poppy.
Or Poopy,
PSA
depends on where you're coming
or Poppy.
or Poopy.
Depends on what part of the country you're from, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's a Poppy card, PSA 10 for $8,000. And you were mentioning that you noticed we had one a couple months ago.
I know.
That was 15.
15. So this is a significant drop in price like that. And I don't know what that said for the same card. So it's a PSA 10. I'm curious, is it same card or not? I haven't done my homework to find out exactly how many on the registry as far as how many PSA 10s of this card exists, but I got to imagine it's got to be very
not
few.
A lot that are 10s.
Like 1, 2?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if this is a resale.
I guess if we check the registry, that might tell us, but we should have done that in advance. But
I mean,
still, $8,000 is a lot of money for a card.
Well, $8,000 is a lot of money, but compared to what it was before at 15,
yes, it's a big drop.
Someone, and this is the same card, someone took an ass beating.
Yes, and the figures.
And I hate saying that, but that's just what it is.
Yes, if it was half. The Poppy figures themselves with the card routinely sell for $4,000 to $5,000, but this is a graded 10. So we know the card itself is mint.
Yeah.
So Number 3, 1982 Hulk Hogan Wrestling All-Stars. This was a BGS 8.5, went for 3,600.
Yeah.
You know,
Wouldn't be a list without it be Wrestling All-Stars.
no, it wouldn't be a list.
Which is incredible that it actually, this went for 3,600. The month before we had one sitting at the number 10 spot. That was a BGS 8. So that 0.5 gave it almost, you know, another $1,500.
And that's something when we ultimately start, when we, in the future, when we start talking about the gold prism and such, we can't escape the grading discussion and the multipliers. And there aren't, you know, to suggest that when you go from an 8 to a 10, it's this much. You can't. There's no uniformity from an 8 to a 9 to a 10, never mind within wrestling, but just within the same sets, you know. So to say that, okay, one was ungraded and one was graded this, and you know, it's not consistent from one card to the next as to what that's going to be.
It's always subjective.
Yeah, like when we talk about the Rock Prism, a PSA 8 is 11.4, a PSA 10 is 33.
Yeah.
You know, is that reasonable? Is that something that we can't? We're not going to be able to say, yes, this is a common multiplier. It's 3x, 4x because it's
guesswork. It really is. I mean, but it's also kind of like having your website. Your website is a guide. It's just a guide you. It's not the end all be all. What's the low end and the high end is. It's kind of, this is kind of a vague area of what you should expect
and put you in the ballpark.
Yeah.
But it gets the discussion rolling,
which is all what guides are. People, some people actually live and breathe by the guides and say that this is the end all. Like, well, the guide says it's worth 100. How come you're asking 150? You know, it's just a guide. It's just to help you kind of.
I've had that happen to me before when I tried to buy something. I put in a bid and the guy sent me the wrestling card price guide. You know, he's like, oh, this is what this guy says it's worth. Oh, that guy says it's worth that. Shit.
You just effed yourself.
But you know, not all of us are integrating. I think it's a bit of a racket, but there's no question that it adds value. Like if a graded card is worth more graded versus ungraded, but you know, I could look at a PSA 9 and I could look at a PSA 7 and I can't physically see a difference in those two cards. Maybe a grader can. And I think that's where a lot of us are like, well, hang on, you know, how do you go 20 grand more for 2 grade points?
I mean, you suck the controversy and all the topics about grading out of the equation and go back to what you said, like of just, you know, I can't tell the difference between a 7 and 9.
Yeah.
You know, that's just not, my eye's not trained to kind of look at that. I don't look at cards that way.
Right.
I really don't. When you get like a David Peck or a Rob England and these other guys that have been doing grading for a long, long time, they've been doing it for so long that their eyes are conditioned. Like they can look at something and they can say, that has a chance at being a 9. But
sometimes you'll see a 10 and the centering's off.
Yeah.
Like I'll look at something, I'm like, that card's not a perfect rendition of that card.
Correct.
And yet it grades 10. And then of course
that's where the controversies come into play.
And are we talking BGS versus PSA versus certified sports? You know, who's doing the grading, you know. So in that sense, it's a little bit, you know, time of day, you know, what kind of mood you're in. But
we're getting off on that. We can do a whole episode on grading if we wanted to, that, you know, and our lack of knowledge thereof.
This one we talked about earlier because this is very, very interesting.
Yes.
A very good sale. This is a 2018. This is the 4th one on our list. Ronda Rousey, then, now, and forever, silver parallel PSA 10 for $3,550.
It's a silver freaking parallel.
It's
silver,
a
base.
It's just the base card, and you know what were the silvers? A 50.
I think they're numbered silver. I don't know, maybe 99 probably.
Yeah, you know,
silver isn't it a high end parallel?
Well, the PSA 10 helps, and again, here we are having
a discussion
about the PSA 10, but we both agree that this 35.55 is high, right?
I think it's about $3,000 off.
I did. That's what I thought. Too.
Just to me, it's a really weird thing. Like somebody is really marking out hard for a Ronda Rousey card and had a PSA 10.
Because it's the rookie supposedly.
Yeah, well,
that, but.
Jesus, all right, whatever. It's not even getting that.
Yeah, but that, you know, it's just a regular base card. It's not a high end chase. It's not an auto. It's not a crazy parallel. I mean, it's one of 50, but
I mean, I'd like to know, like, what is it? What's the Ronda Rousey inner ass card go for? That's what I want to know. It's like, how does it compete with that? No, exactly. I mean, is this card sell for more than, you know? I'm sure Raw. I bet that card probably Raw.
The card Raw. $10.
No, I'm talking about the other one.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm using all these really weird terms. Let's move on.
So we have much more fun when we're there. You know? Maybe I should come to 2,000 miles every month.
Yes, right. I gotta come to you the next time.
No, you don't want to come to Toronto at this time of year.
No, not this time of year. Next time I'm going to come in the summertime. Screw that.
Time we're ready for you.
I don't want to be in the 115-degree weather.
It's much nicer in Arizona at this time of year than it is up in Canada.
I'm sure it is, and I'd rather be up there probably during July and August than I've been here.
Yeah,
yeah.
We got number 5.
Number 5.
2000 Hulk Hogan PMG BGS 7. Very popular card. We know the PMG employee cards are huge with Hogan. We had a big number on that last month.
This time, even though it's a 7,
It's a bit low. Like
it's a bit low because the high
450 is the price.
it's a bit low, I think, even for the price, I think, compared to what it's been going for. I think it has a couple factors against it too. So one, we're seeing more of these.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's always going to be a factor. Two, it's a BGS 7. It's BGS first off.
Right.
There's some people who live and breathe and die by BGS, but the numbers don't lie. BGS, I'm sorry, is like ranked last.
You were saying
and
PSA and then
it's CSG or CGS. I mean, they're it's just the numbers don't lie. You can see based on the quantity. I mean, PSA is king, and then everybody else is fighting for second.
right.
And Beckett seems to have gone down to the bottom of the list like that. And I just maybe that has a factor. I think its diehard fan base is a lot less than it used to be, maybe. But a BGS 7, that hurts. I don't know. The hype on on the PMGs, some people are now starting to argue about like, it's a horrible image, it's this, it's that. But at the end of the day, I guess it's just I don't know. I think that's a damn good number for a 7.
Like, still over $3,000. 82 Rick Martel Wrestling All-Stars, PSA 8.
That's
So,
nice to see that.
yeah, outside of the Hogan, that was our biggest All-Stars. And that could happen with anybody in that set, like if a Kerry comes up or,
Any given time.
a big name with a high PSA grade. It's
I'm gonna go on and say something about that set right now, as a matter of fact, based on just certain things I think. And I think that we're gonna probably see sometime this year, and I hope not. I really hope not, based on things. But you're gonna start seeing some superstar Billy Grahams start hitting the market.
Yeah.
I think so.
And bigger numbers.
I think so.
Nice.
That's my prediction for that set.
Number, where are we at? 7.
Yep.
2022 Alexa Bliss National Treasure. So here we go. We're into the Chronicles now.
Mhm.
This was the biggest Chronicles sale to date, I believe. It was the National Treasures Alexa Bliss Jumbo Patch Auto 1 of 1, and it sold for $3,000.
Nice.
So
It's good.
big number. And then followed by that, 2,500 was the Solo Sequoia Optic Super Refractor for 1 of 1. And that's one of the series, is the optics.
Yep.
Yeah, 2,500. And then 2022, next one on list, number 8, 2022 Impeccable Stainless Stars, 1 of 1 went for 2,500. That's
Oh,
pretty
nice,
good.
yeah.
So that's pretty good too. I'm collecting the silver ones, but I've seen some of the oranges and the blues, and they don't go that high. But that's the highest one I've seen. Yeah,
Yeah.
2,500 one. And then lastly, number 10 to round out our thing for the month. 2020 Becky Lynch fully loaded auto relic 1 of 1 went for 1995.
Used to be a time when nothing was lower than $2,000. I mean, it's close,
Yeah.
but we've hit some months here where we had our bottom 10. It's been just a couple in a row. So I got looking at our previous list like that.
Yeah.
Some impressive sales. I mean, wrestling cards are still holding strong. I mean,
Yeah, better than last month for sure.
and it's kind of expected. So I like seeing what we're seeing here. It's like that. So obviously, people are still very much involved in getting the high end stuff like that and paying big money for it.
Right.
I think some of these things, as we cut closer to spring and summertime, you're going to start seeing some of these go a little higher, maybe.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always going to have that 1 or 2 cards that hit over that 10K mark, which is always impressive, no matter
Yeah.
what it is. So that's always nice to see in our hobby.
Yeah. And more Prism goals or whatever,
Yep.
wherever it comes from, we're just
And there's no denying. I mean, vintage is vintage.
Yep.
And it's always going to hold. It's always a safe bet. It's always a safe investment.
Right.
So to see, but modern is really taking a hold of our lists a lot. And that's
And I'm going to talk about that in a second, sort of the coverage we're giving to modern versus vintage. And
Correct,
where
yeah.
the hobbies go.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a bit. So now we're on to our index.
index.
right?
Yep.
So as usual, we just pick the same things each month. We sort of look at 9 sales, we average them out to get a sort of idea of what on average the product sold for, and then we cross what the trends have been.
I think we're going to be changing up our list a little bit, probably coming here soon.
Well, we need to get it a little bit more reflective of some of the modern stuff, perhaps.
Yeah. I like to keep track of maybe some of these newer stuff that's coming out right
Yeah.
now, see how it goes over the next year.
So the first one we got is AEW Hobby Box, and it's been sort of dropping, and it dropped yet again, not a ton, but it's down at about $90 a box from a high of
Yep.
160 or something like that.
Yeah, it was high for a while there.
And that's a 21. That's the inaugural, the first one.
Actually, I'll take that back. It was over $200 when it first came
Oh
out.
yeah, when it first hit, it was higher.
In
but
2021, that came out. That was pretty high.
Yeah.
In January 2022.
So when does it start to dip? It was sort of by the summertime last year.
Looking at our
Yeah.
records, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
Summertime,
it goes down to
huge dip from June to
Wow,
July
summer.
2022. Summer,
Yeah.
but then it picked up a little bit from 140 and never really recovered from that.
Right.
It just continued to keep going down, and it would hit. I think it's going to consistently be under $100 box at this point, I think.
And we got the base set underneath that, and that seemed to level off at about $20. We were at $17 last month on average for an AEW complete 100 card set. Was it 90? No, I think it's 100.
It's a 100 card set.
Yeah, and last month we ended up at $20.61. So it seems like the first AEW set is a $20 set now.
Yeah.
You know, and there's going to be some sets that are always going to be expensive, like Impeccable, the set.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, if anyone else other than me makes it,
It's true.
You know, they're going to be a lot of money, and
You're going to set that market value just by yourself.
yeah, I'm going to become a great recruiter of
That's
Panini
right.
base cards.
That's right.
Panini Prism Hobby Box, and this is one, of course, we watch because of what happened to it. But I'm happy to say that it seems like we've leveled out. We haven't hit. We thought hadn't hit rock bottom yet because we were at 190 last month, and you'd mentioned that it might go down to 150.
Well, my suggestion was that
it was doing that.
It was hitting
Yeah.
that mark, but I kept reminding people that, you know, the suggested retail price on that product when it first came out was 150 from Panini. So I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if it hit that number.
Right.
You know, so 175 would probably be the area I would have guessed that it would have probably bottomed out at, but it didn't.
See, there was one sale for 170, but
Yeah.
the other ones are around 200, 205, you know, 209. So it seems like the end of the Prism Hobby Box discussion, it's a $200 box.
I give
And
it.
I think there's value there.
There's still value.
There's still goals kicking around. You know, there's probably still some blacks. I haven't
Oh, I'm
checked the
sure.
tracker
I'm
lately,
sure.
but you know,
I'm curious to see in the next couple of months as we get into the springtime. I'm curious to see how that gets affected. Matter of fact, I'm curious to see how this hobby box for 2022, how that box price is affected when the next Prism box comes out.
right.
That's what's going to be something very key.
That could be something. We'll definitely be tracking that.
Yeah.
We'll definitely be tracking the new Prism box. It's hard to do on something like Chronicles because it's a oddball set. You know? But something like Prism, which is going to be something we're going to see this year, and maybe next year. We don't know when things are going to shift.
Yeah.
Certainly a lot of discussion room. Well,
I'm gonna bet 2023 Prism might spike some interest in 2022 Prism,
possibly.
and we might see a little bit of a spike in it. It's like that. Like
do
I
you think-
wouldn't be surprised if you see those boxes hit the 250,
Well, do you
275.
think that adversely affects. Let's just get back again to the gold rock.
Sure.
Do you think that, you know, the next bunch come out and 2 or 3 of them surface? Do you think that pricing affects the year before?
Could be. It could,
Could
but
it affect it negatively because there's more of them all of a sudden?
no, I think it could. It could affect it positively because now it's like we still have to take into consideration it's the first.
Right.
It's the first one that ever did. That's going to
Yeah,
hold
I've
some
heard
value.
that because it's 2022. It's the
It's-
inaugural Prism.
it's
It seems
gonna
like
hold
that's
value.
What's happened in UFC and other
Yeah.
sports, that the first one is the first one is the first one. And if you're holding the black such and such from that first
Yep.
one, that's the one.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
So that's this summer will be interesting to see how that
Yeah.
plays out. I haven't even heard of. Has Panini even made an announcement at all about the next Prism box? Because it came out WrestleMania last time.
Well, when Immaculate hits, we'll probably get the announcement for what's coming next, but we're January, February. If it's going to be exactly a year, because I think they still consider the Immaculate a 2022 release. Now we won't if they release it in November.
No,
but,
no.
But we will, you know, like if something comes out in January, February, okay, maybe you can backdate it to last year.
Like what month did we cut off? Like saying that no, you don't qualify for that year
I think
anymore.
it's a feel thing.
It's a feel thing. Like I mean,
Yeah, because the 20.
I mean, when can I buy a 2024 vehicle?
Yeah, wow, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like cars a year before.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan 1985 tops, right in line, $32.28, and it was like $32 last month, and it was 34 the month before, down a little bit from the previous, but there it is. You know, if you find yourself, and this is raw,
Yep.
a Hogan yellow, and in some cases blue.
Yeah.
You know, it's a $30 to $35 card, right in the middle, it seems to be.
Which is, you know, about where that's the new floor. I mean, that's been the new floor compared to where it was during the pandemic times. So like even
Right.
post-pandemic, really. I mean, we've been consistent with that card in the $45 to $35 price point range, somewhere in that
Exactly.
average. I mean, if we took the average of all the previous year, it's very sitting in that price point, somewhere in that $35 price point.
Next, 1991 WCW Impel base sets, and guys, I don't see as I mentioned, they're not being made here. You may these kind of happening in the next
I
unit.
do have some, you know, runs that didn't hit the printer very well behind me over there sitting in the stack, but they're miscut. So I give those away to customers.
There you go. $17.43. It's normally about a $20 base set for the 100 pieces.
Yeah.
Down a little bit. And then lastly, the 2002 Royal Rumble, no sales this month.
No sales, you know, and I
We might-
can't even find my set. I think I might have sold it some time ago. I may not even have a set. That stuff's drying up.
Yeah.
It's drying up. Even
Well,
when you
people
do
know
find it
Steve
though.
Fleer set, right?
Yeah, and even when you do find it, we've talked about this in the last couple of months. You see the prices for the actual set have dropped down dramatically.
Right.
I mean, I can get a complete set for $90 now,
Right.
and it just seems, I mean, from the $200 price point it was at, I mean, it was hitting 250 at one point, I think, for a set. And that was basically driven by Cena and obviously the big four.
Right.
I just don't think that push, that allure is there anymore.
Yeah,
I think
it may have waned somewhat.
that's the thing that at some point we should do an episode where we talk about not so much the influencers out there. I don't want to do that. Zan and I talked about that on Worlds Collide, I think, one time. But there's a lot of push. There's a lot of people out there who are pushing, not an agenda, basically, but they're pushing. They want something to be. I have a lot of these. I want it to be worth something. So let me go ahead and push it and push it and push it so I can make people have interest in it.
Yeah.
And that's just how the world works, I guess.
Yeah.
And I get that. I think the push for the Royal Rumble set has got to die down. Right. Everybody who's ever wanted to have a Batista rookie or a John Cena rookie, or that's what you want to call them, I think they got them. And so as we start getting more eyeballs in our hobby, those become more popular again, I think.
And then maybe again,
we'll see the day when Batista actually does get inducted in the Hall of Fame, or whether he becomes the next big movie star, right. Because clearly the number 2 movie star, wrestler turn movie star. Wait and see what happens when Cena gets inducted in the Hall of Fame. Let's see what happens when Randy Orton retires and gets.
Or heaven forbid, when people start dying.
Yeah, I mean,
talking about that morbidly, but someone dies all of a sudden.
But that's a factor that people. It's a morbid conversation, like you said, but it's a factor that has to be.
With Jay Briscoe, I don't like it. I don't like guys cashing in.
Nor do I.
Dies the next day. His rare card is $1,000.
Yeah, yeah. Just because somebody wants to capitalize.
Taking the money and giving it to the family. A lot of people.
No. It's in their own pocket, and
yeah. A lot of people, like, for example, I saw one guy on Twitter said, I want to make these things for Jay Briscoe and send the proceeds to his family. And I think it was Dax Harwood that said, you make them, I'll buy them all.
Yeah.
And I'll send the money to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, good. Control it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because you don't want anybody out there to go out there and capitalize on stuff like that. And it happens all across. I mean, I've said this before on different episodes before, because I deal with a lot of different talent when it comes to not just wrestling, but movie, TV, music, all that kind of stuff. When someone passed away, there's a 72-hour window after they pass where their spike in value from the collectible world starts to go up. And then after that, it kind of dips a little bit and then it plateaus. It kind of sits there for a while. I've been seeing this for, many years. And wrestling's no different. So a Bobby Heenan dies, or, Dusty Rhodes dies. And, you're unfortunate to see these idiots out there who want to capitalize and put some money in their pockets like that. And, I'm not a big fan of it. I sat on stuff. I've got Benoit stuff. I've got Eddie Guerrero stuff that I never sold, and I never will sell it. I had no interest in trying to capitalize on that kind of stuff. And
don't do it, guys.
Yeah, just don't do it. But but that's a whole nother conversation again. I mean, I'm going to go on once again. I'll always say, buy Vince stuff. Vince stuff is the way to go.
And when he dies, look out.
Yeah.
So good. So that's all our technical stuff. Do we need to close this?
No, I got it. We're good, man.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah. So I want to have a little chat about vintage cards. And particularly, obviously, we're living in the Panini era, and there's a lot of words and discussions being thrown out about every Panini release. And
isn't it funny? We only talk about Panini, and we have another company out there, Upper Deck, that puts out stuff, but that their conversation for their products doesn't get anywhere near the attention that we put on Panini.
No,
why is that?
Well, again, you said it might have to do with some of the people doing the talking and being invested in Panini. It might have to do with just the general sort of tone in our hobby now that it seems like that's getting all the attention. But I wanted to just discuss the lack of vintage conversations lately. It's not like you haven't had guests and we haven't talked about vintage. There's been discussions, and we're not going to get into that here about when vintage starts and ends, because
I've always been open to that. I mean, my first guest I ever had on was Peck.
Exactly.
To talk about vintage like that. Who better to talk about that?
But when I hear people say, "Oh yeah, the vintage era started in 2013 with Topps,"
no. And
the other guy argues that no, it's actually 2006 with Heritage. I'm like, what?
And you and I even have a difference of opinion when it comes to.
I think it should be older, but that's because I'm old for it, right?
Yeah, well, so am I, but even still, but I've always treated it like cars.
It's not vintage in my book. Comic Images is not vintage in my book, but that's another discussion. And another discussion that will never get solved.
It could. I mean, it's a discussion that
we're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna get across the board consensus that
you never are.
That vintage started in 1985, just before the Topps, or whatever it might be. You know what I mean?
But I've always treated it like cars, man. I started my mind, and I can be a conversation can be had where I can probably change my mind. Right. But I've always just like cars. anything over 20 years is considered vintage in a car.
Yes.
Why doesn't that apply to cards? Okay, I can get the idea. Like, well, I just can't imagine something from 2002, 2003 gets considered vintage. Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess I could, kind of go, okay, let's go to the 90s in, or maybe the 80s. But then you have stuff like in the comic book world, they broke things down into different types of genres. There's a silver age, there's a golden age. So we're getting to this point now, I think, with our hobby. We have a lot of new people coming into the hobby who are modern.
Correct.
We have a lot of guys that, like ourselves and others, that have been around for a long time, and
the flag for everything.
For everything, and just like starting back in the vintage era, basically, you want to call it that. So there's something to be said where we have to probably have this section of grouping up, like this is sort of the era, like a guide.
Yeah.
Somewhere around this time frame is considered vintage. Sometimes considered like
about the Attitude Era. We talk about the Ruthless Aggression Era. We talk about
even in wrestling they designate eras. Why can't we do that in cards?
Right. But my thing is that we're going to disagree, because we're going to be, wait a minute, if I call this the Topps 80s era, like when I look at the first WCW sets, and I consider the 98 WCW one of the first significant wrestling master sets, because it had insert sets, it had stickers, it had what you would associate in other sports. There was nothing like that in wrestling until that first time.
Even Comic Image had that. I mean, it had promos, it had a base set, it had chromium cards, it had autographs, and it had binders.
But this was a first top set, So in my book, those aren't vintage, but a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, those vintage WCW autographs." I'm like, no. Let me show you a 1956 Parkhurst. Let me show you Topps Magic Photos. Let me show you Topps Rings.
What do we call that era then? We call it the Dust Age, or what do we call it?
Well, I don't want to presume anything. I was thinking maybe I'd do a little linear chart and sort of say this is where things start and end. I'm like, no, I don't want the daggers.
Again, it's going to be debated no matter what.
But that's something that sort of, there's been that talk, we often say, if you want to do any sort of content, be it on this channel or anyone else's or on your own, or even tweeting, don't forget about the old stuff, because that's the hallmark upon which this hobby was built. And I know a lot of people say Prism's the gold standard and whatever modern, the hobby is all of it. It's not just the modern stuff. And again, I don't have a vested interest in one era versus the other, because I have all of it.
Yeah.
I probably bought more Prism cards than anybody last year, putting together all those master sets. So I understand. But I don't like, I should say, to see that a lot of the early stuff not only doesn't get mentioned, but it gets pronounced wrong.
Or misrepresented.
Right.
Yeah, because that's kind of part of like knowing your lane, almost, kind of thing.
Right.
But it's just a tough discussion to have in some respects, because defining eras is going to be really hard. And again, you and I can sit here and have a conversation on our own. We did last night, as a matter of fact,
we were talking about,
where it was just like, we don't see. I personally, for me, anything pre-2000 almost now becomes that gray area for me. Like something between, I say something between 80 and 2000. That's an era of like, that has to be defined as something then, I guess.
Yeah.
Because anything past 2000, that's going to be modern to me.
For sure.
Anything pre 79 back, that's got to be vintage to me.
Yeah. But what do you do? That's where that 20 years is, where do you cut it? Because we don't even agree.
Yeah. Like what are you going to call it?
Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe we adopt something from the comic book world. Maybe we call it a silver age and a golden age.
It's another thing, like these pricing discussions we have, that sort of never get solved, because it's all sort of subjective, opinionated stuff where, you get a feel for things and you might think this, you might think that. But again, like rookie cards, it's just something that doesn't get settled.
But even if this discussion, like anybody who's listening or watching this, I want to comment on it, whether it be from this the YouTube thing, or even on Twitter, wherever your social media preference is.
What do you consider vintage? Do you think that vintage is 1980 and later, or is it 85 or 90? That it's going to be in there somewhere. I believe that 20-year.
I think 80s might be a good one, but maybe again, I'm going to lean heavy on the comic book thing. Maybe we call like their 1800s or early 1900s. That's vintage.
That for sure.
100%. And then maybe you call like anything from like 1920s or 30s or whatever the cutoff might be. To like,
it's a long period of time from the tobacco cards,
from
the Goodwins to say the All Stars.
The Magic, or
it's 80 years. So should that all be vintage, or can we? Because there's a pre-war era in baseball, right?
Yeah.
They separate pre-war from after. you know, and again, we're just having this discussion because these discussions of vintage don't happen as much anymore. They used to, but because of Panini and their dominance and their volume and just
Well, it's what's going on right now,
because of
kind of
our
thing.
buddies in the hobby that are talking about it a lot.
That's why I think it's important for sites like ours to have this channel is important to have.
Sure.
It's important for anybody to get out there and have a conversation about this hobby and express your opinions. Like that's why I've always been very open and very welcoming to anybody who ever wants to come on and discuss what they feel about the hobby as far as, you know, this is vintage or this is that, or I don't like this, or I don't like that, or I like this. Well, why, how come we don't recognize this more? Or how come we don't talk about this piece more? There's a million different conversations we can have. And I just can't believe that it's been over, you know, almost 2 years and we're still having conversations about and finding new conversations all the time, that our hobby just continues to keep growing. It continues to keep having discussions, even about things that we're like, well, we knew all this stuff 30 years ago. Oh, clearly we didn't. So
No. And that shows the hobby's growing. There's more people, it's moving in a direction that's forcing us to look at these things. You know, you and I sort of being archivists and custodians of a lot of the information. I think it's important that we have some sort of consensus on some of these things. I know on pricing, I get that, you know, we can only go by what's happened.
Sure.
Where I have concrete proof that X, you know, something sold for X. And we talk about intrinsic value and trying to get a sense of what might be, you know, but some of these things never get sorted, but that doesn't mean we can't discuss them and can't chew the fat on them and figure out what's what. Bit of a national update. We still don't know. You good?
I'm good. I was just gonna change some lighting.
Are we still here?
Yeah.
Just a national update. We still don't know about the main stage and that if that's going to go on. We expect it's going to be like last year, and we're not going to get concrete evidence on what's happening until we get closer to the time. But we are talking at these early stages. Tony's talking to a couple of other key guys in the hobby about doing a trade night specifically for wrestling. And again, we'll have more information on that, but as another sort of carrot to sort of lure you guys to Chicago, never mind to come and see us and all that stuff and see a great show. We want to take, you know, kind of what Mike has done on Monday night, but get as many bodies as we can in the hotel room. It's probably going to be the Marriott adjacent to the more than likely. And we're going to have one big you know, grab a beer, bring your cards in.
Yeah, bring your cards. Have a nice trade night. I think it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun. These are things I'm going to be doing here at the store. I think I'm going to have a trade. We're going to have a trade night like once a month out here in the store. Where
That'd be cool.
I'm going to set tables outside. I have this what do you call it, like an awning or something like that, where kind of overhead, that people can just kind of set up a table in there and trade with each other. And
these ideas, like, you know, last night we're in town, me and my buddy, and we wanted to watch a Royal Rumble. Couldn't do it.
Nobody here. There was nobody.
No bars. No one has Peacock. We thought Dave and Buster's. Anyways, long story short.
Had I been smart and installed my TV in time, I would have just watched here in the store.
Right. And that's where we started talking about, dude, you should be doing pay-per-view.
Which we thought about.
Right. And that's going to be a great business idea because, and even Nick said, I'd be there. Everyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know, Nick from Crazy Car Collector came and joined us last night too. It's like that. So we had a great time discussing all different aspects of the hobby. It's like that and different things.
It's nice to see each other.
Yeah. And so one of the conversations we have, like, he's like, yeah, I would come over to watch it. It's like that. Like, you know, we charge a couple bucks, you know, for have pizza and drinks like that. My wife's been out there researching, like I can get an exemption for the entire year for bring your own beer. It's like that. So my business qualifies for that apparently.
Yeah.
And you can just have a good time of it. You know, get some chairs, sit out here and watch on the big screen here.
You know, like we for us, it's a social thing watching these pay-per-views. Yeah. You know, like we get together. You know, the pay-per-view is a reason for me and my wrestling buddies to hang out. Yeah. Right. And hey,
otherwise I wouldn't tolerate them. But
I think that's a winner.
Yeah.
I think that you have a lot of local people that, you know, because in Toronto, you want to go see wrestling. It's not hard.
Yeah.
You know, but anyways.
Well, do we have any, speaking of Toronto and people out there and friends, do we have anybody like that at all?
Do we have any friends from Toronto, by the way?
I don't think we do.
Do we have any friends that
I honestly don't believe that. Paul, I don't think Paul has any friends, to be honest with you.
What's that?
What is that? Hold on, people. I don't know if you can hear that, but
bring it closer.
Bring it close. I don't know who that's going on.
Welcome, everybody, the one and only Steve from Toronto.
All your people are like, oh, I got this big fucking surprise. Like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
It's not Armand.
It's not Armand, no. But it could be. You'll never know. Yeah.
That it is a pleasure to be on this podcast. It's an honor and my esteemed privilege.
I got this stupid toothbrush behind me playing stupid John Cena.
Music.
He was doing that in the airport, walking around through John Cena.
Oh, Jesus, guys.
This is my buddy Steve from Toronto. We've been friends for what, 25 years? We've watched probably every wrestling pay-per-view that,
In the last 25 years, for sure.
and
Yeah.
when I told Steve I'm going down to check out Tony's store, he's like, I'd come to that.
Yeah.
Arizona in January, yeah.
Fuck yeah. And I just want to say, anybody that has not been down to the store, you need to get down here right away. It is literally the most wrestling merchandise that I've
It's
been
slowly,
around in my entire life.
it's growing. It's growing. Starts.
Than I've ever been around. More ultimates. It's a great store, Tony.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Just
Great.
now while we were talking, Steve was around the corner sorting
Sorting cards for me. I'm gonna put you to work.
I got off the plane and Tony had me sorting cards. We hadn't even left the airport, and he had a stack of cards in my hand, and he started sorting, and I've been
Sort
sorting
this
the
now.
whole fucking time.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough to find good help.
Now Steve's a figures guy. I'm a card guy, obviously, and Steve has been collecting figures for as long as I've been collecting
So
cards.
it's been wonderful me having like
Yeah.
being able to go in both worlds and kind of talk about different things from both worlds. It's just awesome. It's
I
fun.
mean, coming from the figure side, again, checking out Tony's store, my God, it's unbelievable. All the AW figs,
We're trying to carry some vintage stuff too, as far as figures going, old Jack Pacific stuff, and the first two series of TNA figures from Marvel Toys.
Yeah, the Marvel ones. Yeah, they're a good set too. He's got the Ron Killings there.
Yeah,
Great.
I've got AJ Styles
Yeah.
rookie
Yeah.
figures, first figure.
Yeah,
Do we use rookie in figures?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Cody won the Royal Rumble last night. You got a whole top.
I got a whole top shelf of those Walmart exclusives. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Good
Good luck find those Supreme somewhere, man.
Well,
Yeah.
we talked about, like this show, we talked about wrestling cards and stuff, but talking about other wrestling collectibles, because I like that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the fact that you're now into figures and you sort of have a general.
Well, and it has there's history there with figures that contain cards too. So there's a little bit about
Yes,
both worlds. And
that
we were
crossover.
talking about that too, like the grudge match.
grudge
And I
match.
brought those
Yeah,
in.
you
So
found
yeah, I found some at home, brought them in just for that reason alone.
And
And
the old LJNs with
Yep.
the cutouts.
oh yeah, those are back over there. Yeah. found those.
Posters on them.
Yeah.
There's so many elements of those figures, but that's what I originally, collected.
Yeah.
Fucking played with. It wasn't while you were collecting them. You were playing with them.
Well,
collecting.
we didn't know back then, right?
No,
You
you were
turn them
collecting.
up.
I had them all, so I guess you were collecting.
You're collecting
Right.
memories.
Yeah, building memories.
That's right.
But again, get down to the store.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
You
you're
need to
in,
get down
if
here.
you're in Arizona and Phoenix, man, come check us
You
out.
need
We're
to come check
we're
it
growing
out.
every week, trying to.
So much stuff, and these two guys, the foremost experts on any wrestling card.
It takes
the
it takes
entire-
Well,
the
there's
there's
a
entire
few
world.
more of us.
it takes a team, man. It really
Yeah.
does. Yeah, that was another conversation too. So we had it last night at dinner, even with Nick being there, it's like
Yep.
that. Like we were very clear that what, there's no one man in this business.
There
There's
isn't.
no one all end all be all person. There are guys who have strengths,
Yep.
and there are guys who have their weaknesses.
We're in the
And
conversation, but we're
together,
not-
together we
the-
work so much better as a
Yeah.
group. This is a better time than when I started over 20 years ago. Because before it was just me.
Yeah.
And then Porto.
Yep.
And then
I
and
found you
then
guys,
Grim.
Chuck found
Grim was
you.
very helpful in the very beginning too. And then you start getting the Anthony's and you
Yeah.
start getting you
Yeah.
and Chuck
Yeah.
and Armand and Kenny Oz and
Yeah.
all these key guys in the very beginning. And then it went away.
Right.
Right. So then you took over that kind of stuff. Nick started creating his stuff.
Yep.
There was a void that I know that WTC kind of left.
Yeah,
And
but
then
we're
and
back.
then we came back,
Yeah.
and then the support for bringing WTC has been tremendous to the point where it's like we actually have a core team of people who scour the internet looking for all
stuff.
to find stuff and say you need to have this on there.
Even the indie stuff, the Brotherhood,
Yeah.
which is a thread of guys of 15
Yeah.
guys. These guys live and breathe this shit like day in, day out.
They're incredible because they find
they're-
everything.
and they're waiting on the GCW website, or they're waiting on the whatever indie set is about to come out, and they jump on it. And these are guys that are providing us information.
Yep.
A lot of times it goes to Chuck, and then from Chuck it comes to me and Tony, and it ends up on the sites that you guys read. But this sort of camaraderie and cooperation is what makes it all work.
100%.
It takes a village.
It
It
does.
does.
It takes a
It
village.
does.
100% it does.
Just as never mind collecting, but just as wrestling fans.
Yep.
Like how long, and I think we still do. We still have to fight for our credibility and
Yeah.
like
But
how
when
many
it-
times have you said to somebody, "Oh, fuck you"?
Yeah. Well,
You
when we
know,
had that,
come on.
we've had this conversation within the hobby itself too. When Panini got the license and brought out prisms
All
like
of a
that,
sudden, you were
all of a
cool.
sudden we were cool.
Yeah, like
which
it's
is like,
okay to
but-
talk about
well,
wrestling
it was to a degree. I mean, it really set a bigger light on our hobby. And I said that in one of my little shorts I used to do all
That's
the time,
right.
where I talked about, listen, guys, this is what you wanted. You wanted to be acknowledged. You
Okay.
wanted to be taken seriously. And here we are now, like, holy shit, there's 5-figure cards going on in wrestling cards now. So
Yeah.
That's serious. That's some serious money.
There are thousands of wrestling collectors.
Yes, thousands.
There now.
Yeah.
We're real.
We're discovering
I
new
don't
people all
say,
the time.
Is it critical mass yet? I mean, we're
No,
certainly not
no.
Star Wars, and we're not any of this huge stick and ball sports. But even at the national, when I said, "Oh, wrestling," and the response wasn't wrestling, it was like, "Yeah, you guys have been like."
Yeah, I had some. I don't carry much anymore, so it wasn't like the stigma of like wrestling. Come on, guys,
People can
get the
start
fuck
keeping
out of
wrestling
here.
cards. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great. It's like that. I mean, we're early stages. I mean, we are now, I think, in the hobby itself, in the evolution of our hobby. We're now walking.
Yeah, well, we're getting there.
We're walking now.
We're doing so proudly.
Yeah.
So a couple announcements before we leave you. We've got a great episode coming up. We had the opportunity.
Oh yes.
We had speaking of Panini, we had the opportunity to sit with Lucas Kinzer from Panini a couple of weeks ago. Because this information is the wrap of January. The next episode after that, when Tony's done editing it, because this one had to be edited.
Yeah. Well, because the main reason for that really is because I don't pay the pay service anymore for Zoom like that. Unfortunately, I just had to cut costs. Opening a store has a lot of like costs, and I had to start to splice things together a little bit because our conversation went on a little longer than we wanted, so we had to cut that up. So
that's coming up soon, and that's a very great conversation with Lucas.
He was great.
He sheds a lot of light on sort of the Panini perspective on this shit that we talk about all the time. We'd say something.
He's a collector, which was fun to talk to him. So he understood the markets. Like he enjoys and thrives on the market. It was fun to talk to him.
I had some questions for him. I think Gelman through you had a few questions.
We all had some questions. Were nice.
There's going to be some very interesting information, guys, that you're going to find there. And the last bit of information that I wanted to just mention is thank you to everybody that's participating in our first wrestling card collector series. We've closed the set off now at 50 because it's getting out of control. But now we're going to start working on the back. So everybody that sent me a picture, thank you. You're going to be hearing from me in the next little bit to get sort of all your information for the back. Hopefully we can get through that process fairly painlessly and quickly. And then get cooking on these babies. It's going to be a 50 card set of us, and I think it's going to be great.
It's going to be fun. I think the hard part, it actually turned out to be a project that was a little more difficult for you than I think you anticipated.
It ended up being much bigger. When Adrian and I started discussing it, it was one thing. And then once I started soliciting people, it mushroomed really fast. All of a sudden it was out of control. And I was like, shit, this is going to be 35 cards. This is going to be 42. This is going to be 50 cards. And there are still people, and I'm going to be apologizing for the rest of the year, that didn't make the set. There will be a series 2 for sure, just based on people that I ran out, the production says I can do 50 to fit in Gary's box, and that's what it is. But I think this is going to be exciting, and it's going to be a good thing for the community because it's going to bring a lot of us together in one place, and it's going to be a reflection of this time in the hobby. Like you say, we're in the walking phase. I want to remember this time when we went from sort of wrestling in the shadows.
Because this stuff wouldn't have been done 5 years ago.
No, there wouldn't have been any
whether or not we had technology for not if we did, but I mean, it wouldn't have been done 5 years ago. This wasn't something that we'd be like, what? With little card set of like 6 cards for us.
Exactly. Well,
that's about it.
There was only half. But,
yeah, it's a 6 cards, 3 of us twice.
And within
you in a mask, El Generico.
Yeah, that's right.
One side, a double duty.
I'll be like my son, El Super Hombre.
This thing mushroomed, and it happened real quick. All of a sudden I was just bombarding Adrian with images, and it's like, wow, this is going to really be something. So thanks to everybody on that. I'll keep you informed every month as to what progress is.
Do we have a like an ETA? Like,
I don't want to
time
because
well, I mean, what's the target? Like, we don't have to hit it.
No, I'd like to think
if these major manufacturers say they're coming out on February 15th and push it off.
First, I'd like to be able to walk into the national with sets in my hand, but I have a feeling we're going to be done before that. And they're ready. The whole point of these is to try and raise a few bucks that are going to be for sale to support these kinds of efforts, like Tony's running the website. All the cards are going to be available exclusively through Anthony and Tony, specifically Tony and his site. And the idea is just to, all proceeds are going to go towards keeping up the
maintenance.
It's the stuff that we do behind the scenes, sort of to get you guys.
Kind of what we've done all the time, anyways. Like when we created the WTC or the Kevin Nash card or things like that, or it's all about awareness for what we do. And then if we make a few bucks out of it to help put back into like paying for some of the monthly fees, great.
Organize things, and it costs. The cost to do all these things, and I'm going to be on everybody to buy them. Support the hobby, support yourself.
So everybody who's going to set, and who you are. Get your damn bios sent in quickly, please. Okay,
well,
get them in.
I honestly haven't sent the templates yet to everybody because
doesn't matter. Just send an email. Just send an email and just say, "Here's my 3-4 sentences on the back of the card of how I want to describe myself." Send it in. I'm going to send this guy after you. Yeah. So I'm excited to see that. I've seen pretty much all the cards I think so
Yeah,
far.
you're the only one that's
Yeah,
seen it.
and
Jerry's seen a few, but you've seen them all.
they're all awesome. I think they feature everybody pretty cool. It's like that. I mean,
Well, again, Adrian Brown, Keji, JFX, he's
once
he's the
again,
man.
just another great job. The guy just does great work, and it's just
Killed it.
yep.
So and the response has been great. Like
And
I
it's
want
not,
to see
it's
them
not,
put it
it's, yeah, it's not over the top. It's not like this busy kind of cards like that. I know he does a lot of like, he loves the Panini brand of designs like that. So it's not like National Treasury, overly the top kind of with all kind. It's a very simple, clean, but beautiful looking cards. I think they're really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So again, well, thanks, Adrian.
Yeah.
You know, he did it all. So that's it, brother. Anything else to the good people out there in wrestling card land?
That's about it. Oh wait, sorry, and this, and I'm out.
Want to make the big exit?
Yeah, I'll make my big
Yeah.
exit.
Get out of here so we can wrap it up.
Tony, thanks man for having me this
Oh,
week.
no,
This
thanks,
has been a
man.
Blast. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to going to dinner with your family tonight.
Yeah, we got reservations 6 o'clock tonight. We're gonna have something good. I hope. I don't know. My wife, she knows all that stuff, so figure it out. But it's been fun, man. It's I think going forward too, like we have the video. This is gonna be video version. We have a video version with Lucas like that. I'm toying with the idea of just going audio only. Still be on the YouTube channel. I just put up a splash screen of like a graphic and let the audio run. So it's just the store, guys, just telling you, the store is taking a lot of my time. I know WTC is suffering from not as many updates. I used to be very hardcore about it, and like I'd love to have it up as quickly as possible. Spent late nights just digging deep, looking for stuff. But all my equipment, everything I do to search and do all my work is here at the store.
Yeah, which is good. And
So when I leave the store, I have
back
nothing at
room,
home.
There's a wall over there with trading cards. It's like, shit, man, you've got all this stuff. And again, it's not just all modern, it's across the board. And it's a big job. Like Steve's out there sorting cards again. You're going to be doing this for a bit. But once you get sort of on the other side of it,
Yeah.
then
Yeah, the possibilities are endless in that respect. I mean, we'll probably open up something at somewhere down the road, but my focus, I have to be very mindful of what my focus is in the store. And this store, a wrestling themed store based on the one in Los Angeles, and David Gomez runs an amazing store out there. And by the time it comes out, happy anniversary, David. It's 10 years, man. 10 years in that location is amazing.
But I asked that yesterday, how long? And
yeah.
you said 10 years. I'm like, and he makes a living off of this.
Yes,
And
yeah.
you said a good living.
Yeah, I think he makes a decent living out of it. He clearly does. Supports his four kids, and he makes a good living out there, I think, and he loves it. He's very passionate about it, and I'm hoping to try to bring some of that passion out here and continue that name.
That little wave yesterday, you remember?
Yeah, that was great.
When Nick arrived, all of a sudden someone came through the door, then another couple of people, and next thing we didn't see you for like an hour.
Yeah, it was like
a
dozen people coming in here, which was like the busiest I've been here since grand opening.
And you said you have a sort of daily minimum you'd like to.
Yeah. I hit it with one sale. I mean,
you did it, and you were like all smiles. It's like,
yeah,
shut her up.
It was a great day, but it's hard. And anybody who's ever followed the Wrestling Guy Store, Phoenix, you can go to WGS PHX. That'll take you to the website and all the social media on there as well. And you can kind of go on the social media and go way back, from when I started doing this. And I've been chronicling. Zam was very influential and tell me I should probably go and get this stuff archived. Like it'd be fascinating to see the process.
Yeah.
And I tried to do the best I could and putting like, oh, here's an empty store. I get to walk through for the first time, blah, blah. Oh, here's my first package. Oh, here's my new signage. And kind of.
Yeah, but there's a moment every 5 minutes in this place. You know what I mean?
There really is.
You're like, I'm going to do this here. I'm going to put this here. We're going to get a TV. We're going to.
Yeah.
There's been so many things thrown around this weekend. Like, that's a good idea. That's a great idea. And
but I have all these plans. I have these thoughts in my head on what to do because I mean I have a 3-year plan and goal for the store, and it's one, obviously I'm going to introduce cards to kids, and I've got stuff. Thank you for Kevin out in the UK picking up a whole bunch.
Card idea was a good one.
Report cards ideas. I'm going to do one with the kids that get A's. You get like a certain percentage off. Kids with B's, you don't get anything. Kids with C's, try harder next time. It's just. And then we're gonna have like we're gonna have viewerships here for like maybe start with the major 4 pay-per-views, trade nights.
There's nowhere else to go for that.
There's nowhere else to go. I might have to do every month now.
You've got the market.
Yeah.
You've cornered the market on live events for WWE.
So it's just I'm gonna get a taste of like what AEW is like coming up here next in February because they're coming to town for the first time on the 22nd.
Nice.
Those
indie guys coming next week.
I got indie guys coming in from SCW's coming next week,
and indie guys can come and do their meet and greets here.
I'm looking very much to be involved in the community a lot as much as I possibly can. Kids are going to be the driving force for this business right now. I'm really kind of I'm getting a lot of collectors.
You're called the wrestling guy.
Yeah.
So you need to be the wrestling guy.
Yeah.
You've been the wrestling card guy
Yeah.
up until now.
Yeah.
Right. but.
But I have goals. I mean, I have a lot of goals. So
It's very
I've shared them with you, and
No, it's very impressive.
it's a lot of work.
You know, there's a saying, there's people in life that do, and there's people in life that don't. And this gentleman here is one that does.
Trying,
know,
all
you
of
know,
just trying,
yeah.
and it's
Very impressive.
sometimes financially becomes it's a difficult thing, you know, and you share your ideas with people and you don't have the means to do them, and then someone else goes and takes it. It's like, God damn, that was my idea. You know?
You know, I had the bright idea to write a book once on wrestling cards, and I'm like,
But you did it.
I did it, and I didn't make any money.
Regardless.
hardly, and
Unfortunately, it wasn't this
No, we
money making endeavor for you, so, but you get to have that feather in your cap that you did it.
and it was the first book
Yeah.
ever on this stuff, and we talk about this. We talked about this on the Worlds Collide 100th, that sometimes the doing or the process is better. You know, the chase is better than the catch.
Of course.
so to speak. You know,
Just
there's
like in cards.
Yeah, there's a Star Trek episode with Spock where he says something to the effect of that he's found in humans sometimes the wanting is greater than the having, and it's not logical, but it's very true. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. You know, like, oh, I finally got this rare card or whatever it is. So what, you know,
Now I have it.
On to the next one.
Now to the next one,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
kind of
Well, you know what, people with their attention spans, you
They
know,
will, yeah.
nowadays,
No.
there's so much shit out there on our phones, and you know, like
15 seconds on
channels.
TikTok is like an eternity.
Right, that people always, what's next, what's happening, you know, and that's what's happening here. There's like so much stuff. So when I come back, and I will come back
Yeah.
next winter to
Yeah.
get away for the weekend, you know, there's going to be a whole other show to talk about what's going on here. So once again, congratulations.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having me.
Of course, anytime.
You know, next month I'll see you in a box again.
See me in a box. And you know,
Yeah,
we might
we'll
go.
each other until the national, right? Which is what, 5 months from now, but.
Yeah, I got to work on getting flights, man. And it's so hard for me. I'm trying
Well, I'm
to.
going to start that. I'm going to talk to Ryan and just
Yeah.
make sure that we're going the same nights, we're staying in the same place, and get that organized, just so that there can be some sort of consistency to us all.
I got to worry about flights, and for me, I have to
That's
worry. I have to consider the store now. It's like that, and
Right.
as I'm the only guy really working the store. Like I'm leaving for California next week to work an event out there, and so I was like, I got to close on Friday and Saturday. So my wife's going to come in and watch the store for me. And so she's like, oh, come and visit me. I have unauthorized discounts I'm going to be doing all weekend. It's like. And I know she'll do good. It's like that, but you know, I'm trying to build a customer base here and try to, you know, I'm on the face of this place, so I've got to go out
So you
there
just
and
can't, you know, well, there was one day that you left and.
I know I got my 1-star review for the one guy who
You got in
comes
trouble
over.
For the one time you decided to leave for an hour.
It was for my son's birthday. We went to the zoo, man. It's like I forgot to put like we're not open today kind of thing. So
Well, for me, it's not Atlantic City. For me to get from Toronto to Chicago, we have an island airport called Porter, which is 15 minutes from my house. So literally, I can leave my house and be in Chicago in about 90 minutes. So it's a completely different experience
yeah.
than what getting to Atlantic City was. So I'm quite looking forward to Chicago this year.
and so me, I got to figure out flights.
You
What's
on
going to
that,
cost me?
from
Well, it
here.
just doesn't. I mean, flights are not. I'm not.
Oh, it's just the distance. Like even
Yeah.
for us, Steve and I, to get here, we had to do the up and down in
Yeah.
Minneapolis. So hi, Adam. I was in Minnesota for about 2 hours on Friday afternoon, and then tomorrow we fly out via Atlanta. But it's still like an 8-hour, 8.5 hour.
That's a longer flight though.
Yeah,
It's good
but it's
'cause-
just long time of traveling. You
Yeah.
know, then you're in tight seats, and I'm a tall guy.
But anything we talk about, guys, like every month, you know, make sure feedback. Love to hear the feedback. You know, tell us, you know, what you thought about what should be vintage. Tell us about the new releases, what's coming out.
Don't forget to check out our next episode with
Yep.
Panini. It's gonna be a good one.
Yep. And this has been a thrill, man. It's been fun. This is great. I love this. It's good stuff, man.
Yes,
It's always good to see my good friend here, man.
Definitely
It's always good to see my good
So
friend.
everyone have a great night. Thank you, and we'll see you in a month's time.
Until next time, guys, we are out.